Greetings, my fellow council members. I hope the day is finding you all well. Here you join me in the reign of the Septims, Third Era 433, to discuss the affairs of our great province, the heartland of the Empire, and the bastion for prosperity in all of Tamriel. We are gathered here today to discuss what I, and many others, would consider to be the most pressing issue that we as a nation currently face. One that I'm ashamed to say many of my fellow council members have yet to lift a finger to in retaliation. No, I'm not talking about the ongoing cross-dimensional invasion of a demonic warlord, though that is cause for concern and should definitely be looked into. I'm referring to an issue much more serious than that. Much less trivial than being scalped alive and set on fire by an angry Dremora. No, the real devil spreading blight on this otherwise beautiful country is the homeless. Homelessness has recently become a major issue to Cyrodiil and its people. Not only are they not too pleasant to look at, but the homeless also have the adverse effect of lowering property values of surrounding areas wherever they decide to squat. We've had issues in the past with property values, houses haunted by ghosts, dwellings being left abandoned. That time a whole city was razed to the ground. But that has nothing on the effect we've seen from the increase in homelessness. Some of these people, they may have been noble once, they may have been soldiers, teachers, businessmen, pages, but most of them are not. They have no form of education, no skills, no desire to contribute to society, nothing. The chapel monasteries have opened their doors to them on numerous occasions, but these homeless simply refuse to see the light of the divines, even when it is beaming directly into their retinas. What do they do instead? What do these model citizens of the Empire get up to when they're not standing on a street corner begging for your hard-earned money? Thievery, drugs, violence. No matter what station these parasites once held, they are now nothing but a putrid stain that must be scraped from the cobbles of our streets. They do nothing but spend all day harassing good, honest folk trying to get a handout.
I'm only asking for a single coin.
Some may be tempted into tossing them a coin or two, but chances are that money they're begging for will only go straight into buying hard drugs. They may tell you it's for feeding their starving children, but none of these people have children. It's all a scam. I used to love taking walks up and down the Imperial City waterfront at night, taking in the sights and basking in that cool maritime breeze. But thanks to the rise of homelessness in the area, I can no longer go 5 steps without tripping over an empty skooma bottle. And it's not just the waterfront. Every street corner seems to be the hovel of some poor old beggar nowadays. And from what I can tell, no one in power is doing much of anything to combat the issue. The council? What have you done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The Watch? Also nothing. I know we're kind of going through a slight turmoil at the moment. You know, a bit of a leadership problem, you could say. High Chancellor Akato, I ask you, what have you done to put an end to this plight? As a matter of fact, what have you done for anyone in Cyrodiil recently? It seems you would rather focus your attention elsewhere, to the other provinces, but that's not what we need right now. The kingdom is falling apart, man. There are gates to hell outside the city. Crime syndicates are roaming the streets. There are ogres stealing from farms and destroying the food supply. The economy is on the brink of collapse. The job market is in shambles. And Mr. Ricardo, you just sit around in your tower all day, playing with your Muachra. Hello? We gotta do something about this. So what is the solution? Because on paper it may seem simple. You may be thinking, well, what if we just get these people jobs? And that would all be swell, if there were any jobs. Seriously, most of our citizens don't even work. For example, Tutius Sextius. Yes, that's his real name, it's on his birth certificate.
Perhaps you should seek out a priest, perhaps a beggar or guardsman. You and I, we have nothing in common. What could we possibly talk about?
What does he do all day? Well, he wakes up at 6 AM and then he proceeds to wander around town until 9 AM. Then he goes to the castle and just hangs around in the entrance hall until 2 PM. Goes back to his house for lunch. Then he goes for a ride around the countryside until finally getting back for a late dinner and bedtime at 11 PM. He does this every single day. Every single day. to the point where I have it all documented and I can tell you for a matter of fact. I don't know what's separating a man like Tutius Sextius from the common peasantry. The guy does literally nothing for most of the day, but it clearly shows a major flaw in the economic systems present in Cyrodiilic society. Meanwhile, you have hard-working citizens who do nothing but toil in the fields all day. Truly, we live in a society, but we should really get back to the matter at hand. Another solution could be to draft all these people into the military, as we do need all the men and women we can muster to solve this small Oblivion issue we have at present. However, a large proportion of these people are elderly, disabled, or otherwise unfit for service, and utilising them as mere cannon fodder would be hardly ethical now, would it? After countless hours of research, poring over graphs and figures, and running through simulations with my associates, I think I may have finally found a method that is most efficient for putting an end to Cyrodiil's homeless epidemic once and for all. We're just gonna kill them all. Every single one.
What's going on? Someone's been murdered! I'm saving up enough for some medicine. Blessings of
Hello there.
Thank you, kind lady. What's going on?
Now hear me out, because I know this may seem like a radical concept to some of you, but in this scenario, the benefits would greatly outweigh the cost. Not only would we be clearing the streets of these undesirables, cutting down on crime, drug use, and restoring our cities to their rightful glory, we would also be doing them a huge favour. We'd be putting them all out of their misery, so they no longer have to beg for scraps, sleep in squalor, and fight over who gets the last sip from the skooma bottle. Don't think of it as murder. You know, murder's an awful word, and I'm certainly not advocating that we become the Dark Brotherhood. No, think of it as euthanasia. They get to meet a quick end, free of any pain and suffering, where they'll drift calmly into the next life, you know, wherever it is these people go. Meanwhile, the good citizens of our nation also benefit. We crunch the numbers. We drew the lines and the funny charts. Our figures project that crime would go right down. Property values would go back to its usual price. These rough areas, the projects you could call them, would be much better off as a result. Violence? Say bye-bye. Drugs? Not on these streets. Completely spotless. Free of any and all human waste. So yeah, it may seem radical, but radical problems call for radical My voice is fucked. So yeah, it may seem radical, but radical problems call for radical solutions. And I am feeling totally radical right now. Now, I think I've said enough to get my point across, and I believe that everything I've said here today is totally valid. I hope, if anything, I've at least given you all something to consider, because we can't afford to let this epidemic get any worse than it currently is. If anyone has any issues with my proposed solution, I would ask you to please take those complaints up with my associate here. She would be more than happy to fix that waggling tongue of yours. In the meantime, I grant you all adieu. Farewell. I hope to see you all here for tomorrow's council, where I'll be discussing Khajiit crime statistics and going over the numerous ways to skin a cat, so to speak.